Welcome back to Community Matters. We're back with Brant Spesshardt to discuss something we all have trouble with, building a financial plan, and more importantly, sticking to it. And welcome back, Brant. We appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you, Bill.
We were talking about the baby steps, and we got through a couple of them, and I think it's really important that people understand, there is a process to this, and these baby steps eventually get you to where you want to be. I want to ask you this. We talked about putting something into savings, and this is, I think, really important considering most folks don't have it. How much should you have in a savings account before you then take the next step?
Yeah, ultimately, folks have to go with their comfort level, but a good rule of thumb is try to have about 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, sometimes that gets confused where people think, well, my income's X amount of dollars, multiply that by 3 to 6. That's not necessarily the case. We like to look at, hey, what's it take to keep the lights on, roof over our head, food on the table, utilities, insurance, the actual expenses for my household to cover itself each month. Take that number, multiply by 3 to 6, and that is really a good emergency fund for folks. Anything more might be a little excessive. Anything less, probably taking more risk than you need to. But a good place to have your emergency fund is generally in some sort of savings or money market account, something that is safe, something that you can get your hands on if you need it. I'd like to warn people not to invest your emergency fund. The emergency fund is really more of an insurance policy, and it's really not a long-term investment.
Is it just for in case something happens to your job and your income source is cut off, or let's say my refrigerator goes out, or my car, or whatever? Is the emergency fund used for that sort of thing, where normally you'd pull out a credit card and say, well, I need a new refrigerator?
Yeah, so one of our goals is to try to avoid debt as much as possible.
Right.
If you think about the first 2 steps, start emergency fund, then pay off debt, the emergency fund really, the fully funded emergency fund is really there to help prevent us from having to take a step back and get back into debt. So yes, if an emergency happens like losing a job, or car breaks down, or the refrigerator goes out, that's what it's there for. But as soon as that's taken care of, then our goal is to, hey, look, let's build this back up to our 3 to 6 months then.
Okay, when do we begin to invest and make our money work for us?
Yep, so as soon as we've got our short-term debt paid off and our emergency fund fully funded, that's when it gets a little more fun. And we start saving for the future. So step 4 of the plan is start saving for retirement. Our general recommendation at that point is try to save about 15% of your income for retirement. There's people out there that may think, wow, 15% is way too much, or that how would I ever be able to do that? But just think, if you don't have a car payment, you're not having to fund your emergency fund anymore, saving for retirement is actually pretty easy at that point. Mm-hmm. And then after we have our saving for retirement in place, extra money that we have, if we have children that we want to start planning for college, start putting money in some sort of college saving account. Now, I will say college, we don't have a specific number as far as how much to save, because every parent out there has a different history or different goal when it comes to funding their children's education. Some want their kids to have skin in the game, others want to fully fund, and that's fine, but figure out how much you need to save on a consistent basis. And then if you still have money left over, that's when you start putting a little bit extra towards your mortgage principal every month. And eventually, if we get that house paid off, we're at that step 7 that Ramsey talks about, and you're in the position to build wealth and give.
And that's where we all want to be. I can say that, excuse me, I have followed these steps, and I haven't gotten to the pay off the house, but I mean, the freedom you have, really, it's very liberating. And it is, you mentioned this, and for people who haven't gone through this, it's amazing how much money you actually have at the end of your pay period if you don't go out and eat 5 times a week or whatever it is you're doing, and you pay off this debt. It's absolutely stunning. So how do people then, I know you mentioned, you have to get to this realization, this point. Let's say I've done that, okay?
Yeah.
How do I put it all together and come up with this plan and get because the whole family has to be on board?
Yeah, it truly works best if your spouse and your family are on the same page.
Right.
Because you're swimming upstream if you're having to fight your spouse on what to do with the dollars every month. So you've got to get everybody on the same page. There's classes out there like Financial Peace University that are fantastic. The second class in that course is about relationships and money. And it's basically me and my spouse sitting there being instructed on proper ways to handle money versus me telling my spouse what she needs to do, she telling me what I need to do. So, we've got to get everybody on the same page. And courses like Financial Peace, Crown Financial, classes at local community college, but then even talking to financial planners. I mean, there's some financial planners out there that may have that particular philosophy that you may want to talk to and get that accountability and get that roadmap from them.
Oftentimes that's where the relationship, if you're going to have those quarrels, usually it's about money, more so than not. Well, how about accountability then? The difference between a dream and then the success that follows.
Right. So the first place to start is probably get some sort of third-party, unbiased opinion.
All right.
That way it's not spouse telling the other spouse what to do, and then really try to get on the same page. And ultimately, there's a lot of different ways to get from point A to point B, and you've got to go with whatever's going to work for both of you. I mean, our approach, I think it works for everybody, but it just may not be the right fit for everyone as well.
The reward system too. You mentioned paying the smallest balance on a credit card. That's part of it, isn't it? You have to be rewarded. Is that the only thing you should look forward to, or is as you go down through these steps, the rewards become bigger, and do they not? Really?
Yeah, have some dreams for the family. I mean, put a poster on your refrigerator. Every time you pay off a debt, mark through that. I mean, some of those are just small victories that we can appreciate together. But then look, as soon as that debt's paid off and you've got that fully funded emergency fund, let me tell you, your finances change completely, because you're not stressed to go to the mailbox anymore because the bills coming in are less. You're putting money in your emergency fund. You've got this cash flow freed up to where you can say, hey, look, if we hit this, let's take a trip to Disney, or let's go to the beach, or let's go on a vacation that we haven't gone on for a while, or let's go out for this nice meal. Reward the family, get the family involved, because the kids encouraging you, your spouse encouraging you, and surround yourself with like-minded people that are going to really want to see you succeed.
It's exciting, it really is, folks. The payoff is so big. Stick around, because when we come back, Brant is going to help us look even further into our financial future.